I understand you're working on a new project, Atticus. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, well, as a writer, when back in 2007, I used Scrivener, and that was my way to write my books, thesis, and all these other projects. The things that I've always found it to be really hard to use. I even spent more money on training than I did on the program itself. And then, of course, when I'm done with Scrivener, I have to then export it to Word doc so that I could work with an editor. And then we go back and forth, and we have 50,000 versions of my Word doc. And by the time I'm ready to format it, I probably have 7 or 8 that say final on it. Final version, final edited version, final. This is going to be the one. And so that's been a problem. And then I have to buy a formatting software where I upload it to this formatting software, and then I got to work on it. And then I export it to finally get published. Or I'm using a formatter, and using a formatter can be problematic because if I ever need to make an edit, I got to pay the person. I just don't have that access. So I've always been of the thought of, man, I wish there was something that would do it all. Why have to go from Scrivener to Word to, or maybe you're lucky and you get Google Docs and your editor will work with you on that. Doubt it. And then Vellum and all these things, or these other formatting softwares. Wouldn't it be great if there's one that did all those things extremely well and allowed authors to collaborate with editors, collaborate with writers? And so that's exactly what we've been working on is Atticus. We're releasing here in mid-July. We have a paid beta that's out right now where we're really working tight with other authors and getting their feedback. But generally speaking, when we launch in mid-July, we will be focusing on the formatting component first. And then after that, we'll be adding more to the writing, and then we'll be doing the collaboration component I talked about. But when we release in July, we will be better than Vellum, work on all platforms, even on mobile, and also be $100 cheaper than Vellum. So
Yeah, everything you just described, I totally live with because I do exactly what you described. And I know that I've gotten myself into trouble because once I move to Vellum, I retire my Scrivener file, but there was one time when I forgot that I had retired the Scrivener file and went back and made, like, I don't have to tell you you're developing it, but that sounds great. The one thing I think it would be really interesting, and I'm very curious now, I'm going to investigate the beta, is that one of the things, just like you said, is Scrivener is so feature rich that sometimes you can get in your own way trying to do, you can do anything with Scrivener, but do you really want to do everything with Scrivener? And then
right.
I have to say that the thing I love about Vellum, other than this fact that it's a separate thing, is it's pretty much just like they're making the decisions for you.
Yeah.
And they decide that this font is appropriate with this heading. I'm like, good to go. And
Yep.
I don't have to do any futzing with it. So something that could combine those would be fantastic.
Yeah, and that's exactly it. It's kind of weird to say, but it's very easy to figure out what Scrivener did wrong. It's not that the features are there, it's that they made it super hard to figure out where the features are or when the features are actually important. And so creating a clean structure, making it more intuitive, not relying on putting features with multiple drop down menus to finally find it, or to use icons where people have to actually memorize what an icon looks like in order to then use it.
Yeah.
That's one big step. The second thing is that in truth, a lot of the features that Scrivener has in it aren't actually used. They're ones where, okay, maybe if I train myself over and over again, maybe I could find the use out of it, but
Yeah.
none of that is critical. And I think that's one of the big things they did wrong is they just threw things in it without real thought about whether it should be there, as well as where it should actually go. And I think that some of the areas where they really missed the ball, especially with authors, is focusing on author goals and analytics. Imagine if inside of Scrivener, you could say, hey, look, here's my daily goal, track where I'm at, help me with these things. And oh, by the way, when I cross that finish line, wouldn't it be great if there was some notification that let me know I crossed the finish line? What if it also had gamification, the things that helps me to write every day and helps me with each step? They have something like that if you can find it, but it really doesn't. It's not a focus. It's something hidden way in the background. And so these are some of the areas where we can really work. The other thing too is we're working hand in hand with a lot of companies. because there's no way we're going to do everything perfectly. We will have our own outlining inside of it. But let's face it, Plotter is a great tool. And there are a lot of authors who use it and have used it and only want to. Well, we want them to be able to use it with the software. And so we're working with them, the Plot Factory, we're working with BookBrush, we're working with Grammarly, Pro Writing Aid. We want this to be the most integrated writing software so that authors, if they choose to work with one program, there's a very good chance it works with us. Instead of it being, no, you have to use our isolated system and that's it. Now you got to force your creativity and your capability to fit in the confines of what we created. No, thank you. That's not good art. So that's our focus.